I got only one answer, which lazy, 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 and lazy.
Hey, welcome to Data Crunch. Now today I'm having Edmund Hee, Senior Data Scientist from AirAsia, again with us. Now Edmund, he will share with us his journey coming from a non-data science background and eventually become a data scientist in MNC like AirAsia. Now for you as our audience, I'm sure that you are interested about what it takes to break into a career in data science. Okay, now Edmund, maybe you'll share with us a little bit about your background and how do you get started?
Sure. I graduated as a Java developer in my university, and then I self-pick up machine learning and sign up some courses like, for example, Coursera, Udemy, and then I do of like Google search on reading documentations, journals to understand what I don't know about machine learning, especially formulas, machine learning algorithms, and then I also believe that learn to how to program, learn how to code will helps, because getting your hands dirty will always be the best practice.
Okay, now you mentioned about Udemy and Coursera. A lot of our audience here also, they try to pick up machine learning from even YouTube videos. But what are the main challenges you face when you first started to learn from those online materials?
Learning from online materials helped me to it helped me to clear out the doubt on how about the formulas, algorithms. But the only problem I face I don't know how to apply in, like, for example, when I do some data analysis, or even I want to train a model, how should I use those knowledge to solve the problem?
Yeah, I believe that's the same problem that many of our students, even when they join our class, also they mention about the same thing. Now, what would you advise people when they first enter data science, but they do not have a technical background, they don't have, like yourself, you have a technical background, but what if they don't have one?
I would suggest that get yourself familiar with at least one formula or one algorithms, because you must not understand when do you need to use that method, or when do you need to use, because most of the times we know how to use those algorithms, but we don't really know the usage, and then why do we need to use them?
As in, you know how to use it because you follow the documentation, you follow the example. But when it comes to application, yes, applying in the real world scenario, that's totally different case, right? Yeah. When I first know you, when we first met, I think that was in like 2004 when I was still at Magic, right? Yep. Yes. And that back then you were working at the startup, I remember. Wash Over Me.
Yeah, Wash Over Me.
Okay. Then what happened? Like what happened during the time there?
So I joined Wash Over Me as a Java developer, and then I picked up Ruby on Rails because of my new CTO, Ginny.
Yep.
And then that is when I start to work as to move our applications into microservices, and then at the same time also need to help them to build up a data analysis report on crime data. And then after that, I move on as a full stack developer, and then as a data engineer and data analyst.
In the same company, or
in a different company?
Different company. So that was after Wash Over Me was
after Wash Over Me, and then I helped the F&B company to build up their business analysis report, and then help them to clean up the data, crunch the data. More likely is to let them know about how well is the business doing, and then the operations side. And then after that, in 2017, I joined AirAsia as a full-time data scientist.
Now, how does your full stack development and software engineering knowledge actually help you in your data science career?
I am able to deliver product from end to end, from a very raw data until API levels, to serve data to mobile applications, your web applications. And then at the same time, I can take data science product to productions level, instead of just passing the code to the developer and request them to integrate inside the production server.
Okay. Now, Edmund, as we all know, right, AirAsia is a big company, it's an MNC. And how is it different from the startup companies that you have joined? Now, previously you have experience in 2 startups. So how is it different in terms of culture, operations, and also your work experience?
In MNC, we have very specific team to handle different kind of tasks. And then it also depends on what are the requirements as well. Most of the time, joining a startup really helped me is I understand the entire workflow of the process, and I know what kind of data that non-technical departments is requesting, which also help us to speed up the requirement gathering time for the project or for the task.
Now, when you say non-technical department, it's like sales, marketing,
Products. Yeah.
Now, even in AirAsia, you also work with different teams, right? From booking, sales, finance,
Products, campaigns.
Now, Edmund, in your opinion, right? If I'm looking for a job, if somebody is looking for a job, who should be more suitable to work in MNC?
I would say that someone that want to specialize in a specific task instead of understanding the entire whole process, which will take quite a long time or longer period of time to understand.
So somebody who wants to become a specialist,
Yes.
Specialist will be more suitable to work in MNC. Now, who is more suitable to work in a startup in that case?
I would say people that want to understand the entire workflow, entire process, and how do you collaborate with different departments or different people that's non-technical backgrounds, for example, operations, digital marketeers, and so on and so forth.
So more of a generalist.
Generalist, and then you understand how do they communicate each other, and then how can you help them to solve problems.
Okay.
So I understand like how AirAsia handles very huge data sets.
Yeah.
Because every day we have like few hundred gigs data come in, and then how do we serve data to products as well in development, and how can I generate different kind of dashboard to support our business users and their stakeholders, and then understand the trend patterns of our customers, purchase behavior, and so on and so forth. And then especially we are able to generate personalized campaign and then to target our customer and try to convert them to purchase more.
To motivate them to
motivate them to purchase.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now we talk about data science almost in every single industry. Like I cannot think of an industry that never talks about data science, from healthcare, digital marketing, sales, F&B, FMCG, even to durian plantation. Even they talk about IoTs and data science. Is in your opinion, right? Is data science really that hyper level kind of advanced or canggih, or it will start to make sense even if anybody start to dwell into data science?
Not really, but actually when you just need to dwell in it, and then because psychologically we are just afraid of something that we are not familiar and which is unknown for us.
Yeah.
But once we are inside, then you get familiar with like algorithms and then technical terms and then how to code, then it will be much easier for you, and then you just learn all the way.
Okay. Now, what is the motivation that motivates you to switch from startup to MNC company like AirAsia?
I want to understand how MNC companies to handle their data.
How large companies?
How large companies, and then how can I use that experience to help those startup companies to build a proper data pipeline, and then they themselves can scale up into a SME or even MNC in the future.
Okay. Now, we're quite familiar with the interview process of a startup. Basically, we take anybody who is passionate, we look at their skill sets, but also we look at their culture fit. Now, in MNC, when they are, or in corporates, when they're hiring for data scientists, how is the interview process like?
As everyone know, the technical part is always needed to be tested.
Yeah.
Okay. Presentation also is required because you need to explain about your findings and then your answers. Machine learning and thinking process will be asked during the interview as well.
How many interviews you attended?
I have been through two interviews. Two interviews. The first one is technical test, and the second one is the meetup.
Okay.
Yeah, meetup in AirAsia. And then, but one important rule in AirAsia is they want to find the right people that are keen to learn, to develop, or to do machine learning.
Okay, so they're finding keen learners who are willing to grow as well.
Willing to grow, and then they don't mind to grow talents.
Okay, good. Yeah. So now we understand the interview process a little bit, but what is the genuine motivation behind from you that switched from a full stack developer to a data science career?
I got only one answer, which lazy, 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 and lazy. Okay, I always dream that what if I can automate something, and then I want it to be even better. Like for example, I'm keep thinking of what if my code can be generated by machine learning. What if I can ask AI to help me to generate mobile apps, web applications, a backend server where I don't have to spend any time to do coding.
So when you don't spend time coding, what would you like to do with the extra time that you have? Do more coding.
So I'm trying to work hard to be lazy, you know.
Okay. Edmund, very important question for our audience. Would you actually advise them to become a data scientist?
Yes, I would think that it will be one of the most important role in a company in the future. Reason being is I think data analyst skill will be expected to be known by everyone in the future because, like what Dr. Lau said, in the future all companies will become a data companies, and then everyone will start gathering data. But if you get equipped with data analyst or even some of the data engineer or data scientist skill, then you might have trouble.
Okay, let's say if our students they want to begin a data science career, but then they're not so confident to become a data scientist yet because that's at the very beginning stage, right? So what are their other options, or in other words, is there other roles that they can play in a data science team?
Yes, I would suggest that if you are not confident being a data scientist, what you can do is you can go for a data analyst first. Play around with all the data, get familiarized, and then only move into data engineer, but not data scientist first. Move into data engineer, understand how they gather data, how they clean, and then how do they store the data. Because that will be the fun. Because storing and gathering data is the fundamental of being a data scientist. You need to know where do you get and then can you store. How can you store effectively for your to do your further analysis. But until then, when you are equipped or with all these skills, then only you move into machine learning or even being a data scientist or AI developer.
Yeah. So in other words, is data analyst or data analysis skills is the fundamental, and then data engineering is the key skill set that you need, because you need to know how to get the data, how to clean the data.
Yes.
And later on you have the freedom to choose whether you want to become a data scientist or you want to specialize as a machine learning engineer or AI developer. Okay. Now we have been talking about all the good things about data science, becoming a data scientist, everything that you read about on the media. But I'm going to ask Edmund a question that you have never heard it and you will never hear it elsewhere. I'll tell you after the commercial break. Edmund, now this is a very serious question that I promise that you have nobody has ever asked this in the interview before. What are your regrets of becoming a data scientist?
Okay, so I guess I mentioned that I'm a full stack developer background, and then currently I work as a data scientist. So I'm expected to work from entire process.
Yeah.
So, but only get one salary, one person pays salary. So I want to get more, but okay. Despite that regrets working as a data scientist, I will need to do a lot of development to serve all the APIs. But it is a good thing as well, because you will understand how can you help the team or the company to push things faster, and then keep up the pace.
Okay. Yeah. Now we always say that data science is a very broad spectrum. You need to learn a lot of stuff, not just mathematics, programming, and then business domain knowledge. In your opinion, is there anybody who is not suitable to become a data scientist?
Personally, I think someone that doesn't have any passion in data or even mathematics, because why? You will need to understand formulas, algorithms in order for you to proceed in data science because we deal a lot with calculations.
Yeah.
For example, standard deviations, normalizations, mean, max, everything is maths.
Yeah.
And then someone that's less curious and they're very less sensitive with numbers.
Okay.
So being a data scientist, you have to be very careful and be very sensitive with numbers.
Yeah. Everybody should learn data science.
Seriously.
Right? What would be your advice to the SME companies in Malaysia if they want to start to enter data science and using data science in their business?
I would say start collecting data first,
Okay.
and then build a proper data pipeline and then to fit into your dashboards, reports to your company.
Okay, integrate that into part of their process.
Yes,
right?
it will take some time to integrate, and then always be aware that the data that you collect might not be able to show you much a very high conversions and generate any revenues at the first place.
At the very beginning.
At the very beginning. But at the minimum point, you are able to understand how your business is performing and then how is the response from your customers.
So in other words, the ROI, the return of investment might not come immediately in the short term.
It will take a lot of time as well.
A lot of time, and then you will see that in the long run. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, thank you very much for watching our show. Before we end this show, Edmund, is there any closing remarks for our audience here?
Yeah, for business user, I would say that if you haven't built up your data team in your company or tech team, I would suggest that hire an experienced data engineer will always benefit to your tech team.
So don't rush into hiring a data scientist.
Yes,
first.
it's because like what we are mentioning, data, everything is data. Without a proper data pipeline or a clean data analysts cannot do their dashboard or reports. Data scientists cannot do their modeling, cannot do their machine learning and exploratory data analysis. A lot of things cannot be done. So get an experienced data engineer to help you to clean up your data and then build a analytic database first. Then only you proceed to search for data scientists.
Okay.
Yeah. And some true fact that building a data product is not cheap at all. Because first having a proper data lake and then a proper data pipeline, architecture pipeline is very expensive. It will really increase your finance budget at least 30%.
30%.
30%. You should be expected at least more than that. Okay. But ROI is in the long term. Because when you keep collecting data and then you will know that what are the data that have been ignored for in the past, then when you start collecting them and then start to build on your dashboards, reports, and then there you will see the changes and then the improvement.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much for watching. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel and our Facebook. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section. I'll see you in the next episode.
Bye.
Bye.